You know, I was thinking about women in leadership. We kind of feel like the little engine that could, at least we used to. And it was like, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And I think what the Women's Leadership Institute has done is put us into this orbit of we know we can. And I just think, Pat, let's give Pat a congratulations. So I'm going to give this to you because I don't need it. We'll see if it's live, see how it goes. Okay, so I was fascinated with the presentations. I took some notes here to just kind of think about this. And I want to start with Jeff. And I want to start with you because Pat said we're experiencing a women's renaissance. And that's a really positive, forward-looking thing to say. And Jeff, I want you to just comment on if we want to be part of this women's renaissance, to elevate the stature of women, what's the first thing you have to do? If you're in a position of influence, what's the first thing you have to do?
I think,
You're good.
I don't know which one works. If this doesn't work.
I have
Works?
so much
We're
confidence
good.
that those people
Okay.
up there will get us taken care
Or I
of.
should just yell. So I think the first thing and where it starts, is already has been indicated, is leadership at the top. It needs to be a business imperative from the CEO and the board on down through the company. And it has to be important to them or it won't work for your companies.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, Nate, you had a really interesting story there. And there's a lot of women in the audience, and I think we were all sort of like, yeah, we understand, we get it. And what I felt like you were doing was really celebrating the perspective that a woman brings to business decisions. And so I'm an economist by training. I know that women make most of the consumer choices. You know, we are really powerful in life and whatnot. Tell us about your journey in just understanding what a woman's voice really means in business. You gave a great example, but I want you to just give us just a little bit more color commentary.
It happens. I mean, I gave kind of two quick examples there of finally getting out of the wilderness and surviving, and then one quick example of how we've been able to thrive because of the strong women's voices in our company. But I mean, it happens every day. And I do think it's not just, you can't just have women work at your company. They have to be working in leadership roles at your company. Because Rachel, our CMO, she feels a lot more confident in telling me, no, we can't do that. That's totally wrong, Nate, than someone who would be an entry-level employee in the marketing team would, whether they're male or female.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that you have to do as a CEO especially is make sure that you're getting people telling you no and pointing out when you're wrong. You can easily have people say, oh, yeah, it's the funniest joke I've ever heard, Nate. Like, you're really smart, and I really like that shirt. So you have to have, I think, women in positions in the organization where they feel comfortable pushing back on the CEO and really moving the company in different directions. And you can't have that if you don't have women in leadership positions.
Yeah, love it. I'm going to just do a little bit of editorial commentary here, but one of the things I liked about your presentation was showing how, you know, women instinctively know some things, and they have they offer some values that maybe men don't have in as much abundance. And we don't have politicians on the stage, but if we did, we could ask him or her about what women bring to public policy and to politics. And I would just suggest to you that we bring a lot of civility and a collaboration and stewardship and a love of beauty. And these are all things that we need more of, obviously, in public policy. Fair enough? Okay. Kathy, I want to come to you.
Okay.
I loved your picture. Was it your grandmother?
That's my grandmother, my maternal grandmother.
Love the picture. And then I noticed on the, I don't even remember what it was, the
She-Tech.
Okay,
Yeah.
and on She-Tech, the father had his arm around his daughter's shoulders, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was touching. So a lot of people in the room are really busy, crazy busy, and they're not looking for more things to have on their to-do list, but you made a strong pitch for mentoring. Help people understand why they should make room on their calendar for mentoring.
You know, it really is the connection between us as human beings that changes behavior, that alters, who we are and what we do. And I think for a lot of years in the workplace, there was kind of an arm's distance thing about men and women kind of cohabitating together. And I've seen it change a lot over the course of my career, and seeing a lot more men step up to be mentors, but I also have seen a lot more women step up to be mentors for men, right? Which means it's this organic thing that when it is natural and organic is just so positive and collaborative, and the programs that you put in place will support that, but it is like Jeff said, it has to start at the top. You have to say, you've got senior leaders who work with, promote, hire in the diversity categories, particularly obviously women, because that's what we're talking about today, because you will not have that if you don't have those examples for people to follow.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay, Topeka, I loved the study you shared. I was not familiar with it. I took out my phone and took a picture of it to get the source and everything. I know that Barbara would know all of this really well, but that notion that in childbirth women lose ground, on the one hand I thought this is so illuminating, and on the other hand I thought how depressing, right? Because what we need is women to have children and create more of this growth and just what is better in life than a newborn child. So I just wanted to just ask you the question, when you have shared that data, how has it affected your male colleagues at BioFire? Did it mean as much to them as it meant to me sitting there in the audience?
Yeah, it's interesting. We all looked at that study together.
Okay.
And I think there was a sense that, when you work with colleagues who have a baby, you're naturally empathetic and you're naturally sympathetic, and you want to help them get through that phase. But there is this moment where you think, what have I done that was unhelpful to that person, that prevented them from feeling like they were welcomed back, or setting up meetings at 6 p.m. in the evening, or setting up travel schedules that were inflexible, that were small things, but together add up to this feeling that this is overwhelming. I can't come back. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And how have we contributed? How have we set that up? Thoughtlessly, because nobody does it intentionally. It's always just, I'm sorry, I didn't think about that, and just a reminder to say, stop and think, because the consequences could be important. I think that was interesting to all of us.
Yeah, really interesting. I love that your leadership team looked at the data together.
It was
that seems like a lesson
yeah.
learned to me, that you do this together.
Yeah.
Interesting. Just a little personal story. When I was on maternity leave with my first child, I had the typical 8 weeks off, and I remember at like week 6.5, I just knew that wasn't going to be long enough. And I remember calling my boss and saying, what would you think about another 2 weeks, 4 weeks? And, I was basically told, well, that wasn't the agreement.
Yeah.
I hope things have changed. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Lauder, you showed data that the incoming class of dental students at the University of Utah is increasingly women, increasingly female. And I guess I just wanted to get a sense of what's the thinking behind that? Like, is it different to the customer to go to a female dentist than a male dentist? What are you hoping to accomplish by having more of that inclusion in dentistry?
Well, academically, it strengthens the dental school learning process. We have a very rigorous curriculum, and students work closely together. The ability to see things differently is very important in the process of learning. And as you've seen from the presentations today, a woman sees things differently from a man, and it makes learning a great experience. When you translate that out into actual patient care, I think you also see those benefits show in how well patients respond to care. And so we get a win-win, in my opinion, by the men associating professionally with the women in dental school. And then we see that extend out in how those male dental students respond to their patients, where they may not have had they not had that influence. And also the women take that innate advantage that you have with people, and you give that to your patients, and I think that it is a definite win-win-win.
Yeah, just ask the audience, do you like the idea of more female dentists? That's interesting. Okay, very good.
May I say one other thing?
Yeah, please.
Most of you also have smaller hands. It's a very confined workspace to go into the mouth.
Touche. Part of the diversity. All right. So most of you know that my background is in economics, and I do a lot of thinking about the Utah economy. We have an unemployment rate right now, 3.1%. That is full employment. Basically, every industry in our state has a labor shortage, can't recruit the labor that it needs, but it's particularly acute in the high-tech sector. And boy, we have up here Domo and Chatbooks and Instructure and BioFire. How does this low unemployment rate and your need to get all the talent you can get your hands on and then women fit into the equation? Because in some ways I'm just thinking you're just take anybody you can get. Can you actually be strategic right now given that the labor shortage is so acute? Jeff, why don't you, just because we haven't come to you for a little bit, but then we'll come over here and let's get each of you to comment on it, and if University Health would like to as well. Go ahead.
Honestly, it's a real challenge.
Okay.
And it certainly is a challenge to find people not only who have the skills and abilities we need, but also the diversity backgrounds. We've had to recruit out of state and recruit people from other markets to bring them to Utah to bring in diversity, and we've had to proactively do that and reach out to schools with more diverse programs, and that's been part of our push to increase the diversity in our workplace already and meet the need. And frankly, we can't meet that need in Utah without more women, because given the numbers, with all the women in school, there's more women in bachelor programs in Utah than there are men. We need to have more women into the workforce in our company. Not only is it a good benefit for the business, but we just have to do it. We can't meet our needs if we don't.
Yeah. Kathy, how does it fit in the puzzle at Domo?
So I'm a transplant to Utah. I've been here 22 years. And, when I moved here and got, ingrained in the business culture, one of the things that I realized was Utah has this amazing, untapped natural resource, and it's women. There are so many highly educated women in our state. And with now technology permeating all industries, the ability now to tap into that unused natural resource has never been better. And I really think it's going to be a differentiator for our state with the kind of growth that we've seen if we adopt the right kinds of practices and policies about things like maternity leave and family leave. And, one of the things we've done is we have a nursing mother's room in every one of our 4 buildings that's outfitted pretty nicely. And we also do ship your breast milk if you're working. I mean, just all of these little pieces that, again, make a difference, that you wouldn't think about, what does a nursing mother do when she's at work? And I think that those are the kinds of things that we have embraced those. This rich, rare natural resource can be our true competitive advantage.
Yeah. Topeka, did you want to add anything there? And Nate? 3.1 unemployment rate.
I'll chime in on Kathy's point. We tapped into the amazing talent pool you talked about who don't want to come into an office right now for whatever sets of reasons, but who do want to be involved in a cause and a group that they care about. And so our customer support team works from home. And it's not just in Utah. They're actually in all of the time zones across the U.S. This amazing group of women of about 70 to 80. And I say women, I think we have one guy now, but I don't think he's very good. We actually call it our mom force. And when twice a year we get together in Utah. But for the most part, we know each other on Slack. And I think we've recruited a customer support team that you just can't possibly hope to put into a cubicle farm, with a headset on. And our customer support team are head and shoulders above our competitors' customer support team because we're recruiting, valedictorians and master's students who just don't want to come into an office right now but want to be part of Chatbooks, thankfully.
Yeah. Topeka, anything?
I would just add that it goes both ways, right? So women there's a crucial need in hiring, and women have the choice of who to go work for. And when you come in an interview, there's an onus on the company to present something that's attractive to a woman, because as a woman, you actually have a choice to go elsewhere. And that's a powerful position to be in, and I think we should take advantage of that.
Very good. All right, just a little personal story, and I've shared this with Pat Jones, and I don't think the person I'm talking about would mind, so I'm going to use his name. But Wilford Clyde. He's the current chair of the Salt Lake Chamber, runs one of the largest construction companies, multiple construction companies in the state, very much a guy's guy, and hires a lot of men. But I went and met with him. You know where I'm going with this, Pat. And I'm in his office, and I'm at his personal desk, and I'm looking across at him. And right at his computer, how people pin up things that are important to him, he's got the ElevateHER challenge punched in right behind his screen, which tells me that this very male-dominated industry and guy's guy, as he's making decisions, is looking at the ElevateHER challenge. So that's pretty amazing, isn't it? I mean, that shows how much the ElevateHER challenge has penetrated this community. So the question for the panelists, and I'm not going to direct this, you guys can just give me the nod who wants to answer this, but do you believe that what we're doing here is part of a grand, large movement, that there's no going back, or do you think this is just like the latest trend? Okay, it looks like the doctor's ready to go.
Well, I think Pat mentioned in the beginning of her comments about transformation and transforming awareness of all the possibilities is key to what I do. My job is to recruit. And in the past, it's been recruiting at the college and university level. But now I've been approached by 4 different groups who are advocating for high school involvement in the recruiting process for dental programs. And now we're setting up opportunities for high school students to have visits at the school, or I go to visit them, or representatives from our admissions committee. And that recruitment, again, elevates the awareness of the dental profession, and it touches both male and female. But if we can get our students at the high school level, then they're starting to prepare to meet those rigorous standards for admission into our program. And we can see a definite ongoing trend for what I'm interested in, but I can see how it would definitely be an ongoing transformation that will occur as we move forward.
Yeah, great. Okay, anyone else? Is this a wave, or has the tide actually changed?
I'll
Jeff,
weigh in
go
really
ahead.
quickly. I think this is not just a wave. This is the tide changing. As we hire recruits from any number of areas in the country or the world, they ask us about our diversity, inclusion, and gender policies. That's something that's important to them to choose which company they want to work for. We're required to do that just by the nature of trying to recruit talent. So I think that will be the expectation going forward. I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree. I mean, I think too, as we look at the millennial generation now, hitting their 30s, right? There's also a very difference in the division of duties in the family with this age group. I mean, I'm a mother of 4 daughters. They've all gone to college. I have 12 grandchildren, and I see how different my son-in-laws are with the division of duties in the home. And as I see that, I've seen I have 2 daughters that work and have children, and I have 2 that do not, but are very involved in the school and other things in the community. And their ability to be able to as women, do what they want to do is so much more supported in the home. So there's an anthropological, socioeconomic change that we're seeing, in our society, coupled with technology that I think there's no going back. That train has left the station.
Yeah. Topeka?
I agree. I think that the other thing I see every day in real life is when you put teams together that are with men and women working together, especially like us with technical competencies, it's so energizing. I think this is what you were saying too, Doctor. Yeah, this is an energizing thing where you have different people bringing different things to the table. Once you taste that, once you've been part of a team that has that diversity and that energy, it's very, very hard to go back. I can't think of a man who wants to go back to a team that's all male, or a woman that wants to go back to a team that's all women, because you see it, and once you've experienced it, I think it's a real motivator.
Great. Okay, I'm only going to ask 2 more questions, but I'm going to have each of you respond to the 2, so that'll take us to the final minutes here. And I'm going to be a little bit edgy here, off script, not on my notes, but I think it would be a really helpful thing to have each of you just give advice to someone in the room who has felt discriminated against, someone in the room who has felt a headwind, that's gotten in the way of their trajectory professionally, personally. I just think it would be really helpful because you all are super successful people. You believe in advancing women, and we've got a lot of women here, and they truly have lived in a situation where they've had some headwinds. What advice would you give to them? And we won't go in order. Let's just go in as you have
Okay.
it. Nate, you're ready to go.
I'll try it.
Give them some advice.
Okay.
Is that an okay question? Do you guys like that? Okay. Okay, because I'm just going, Dominion Energy's out there, Rio Tinto's out there, Intermountain Healthcare's out there, some small businesses are out there, but clearly we wouldn't be talking about this if there weren't some headwinds.
I'm saying this from the perspective of a middle-aged white male, well-educated,
With a very
So-
smart wife.
with a really smart wife. But I guess I would suggest just make sure that you're not keeping that in, that you find someone you can talk to about it. Because that is one thing I think I've seen in my family life, friend life, work life, that the repressed sort of, man, I really feel like I got wronged there, can be a cancer. But if you can find someone that you really respect and can talk it through with, you'll get lots of great advice and lots of great support.
So confront it. Be out there.
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
I add to that?
Yeah,
Just a
please.
Great point, and I would take that a little further and say, choose someone who would be useful, who has been through those situations before as a mentor, who will give you good advice about how to deal with it because they've dealt with it before, instead of just complaining to a group of people of your own gender. I'm being real honest and direct there. Find someone who can help you navigate that, and I would always encourage people to talk directly to the person who's offended them or someone who will talk to them directly. We can't just allow that to go unnoticed or unaddressed. And it's always frustrating for me when I hear of someone who's been really offended by someone but has never raised the issue and we couldn't really do anything about it. So for me, I want to get those things on the table and address them as proactively and as directly as we can.
Yeah. Who's next?
One of the things that goes through my mind is, if you're in a culture that's toxic and you can see that there is not a receptiveness for gender diversity, you may have to go somewhere else. And that's okay, because guess what? Diversity now is a competitive advantage. It used to kind of just be benefits, right? Or the career path that you wanted. But companies will start to change their behaviors if they can't hire and retain people. And the free market will help change that. And I think that's important. You can speak with your feet. And if you're not respected, if you're not valued, it's okay to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Deepika?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I completely agree with that. I think you have the responsibility to say something. I think there are lots of times where things are not intended, and I think you should always give. I'm just going to give you an example.
Please.
Okay, so we had a junior marketing manager who invited 8 key opinion leaders to ElevateHER to tell us about the next panel that we were developing. And he invited 4 women and 4 men, which was wonderful. And we had the entire R&D group, which is 200 people, listening to what they had to say. This kid, he's only 30, he asked the 4 men to stand up and speak. And he had the 4 invited guest women sitting down and listening. He hadn't thought it through. Do you know? And the women who were sitting down were looking at him like, are you crazy? The 50-50 pool of 200 people in R&D were looking at him like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
And at the cocktail reception afterwards, 20 people came up to him and said, what were you thinking? And he went away, and he wasn't fired, he wasn't reprimanded, it wasn't an HR write-up. He went away with this memory seared into his brain.
Yeah.
Do you know,
Very
it's a
interesting.
learning moment.
It is.
And you should use it that way sometimes, and you should give people the benefit of the doubt. They don't always mean to offend.
Yeah. Great advice. Dr. Louder, you got the last word on this one. Advice to women who are feeling headwinds in their development.
I think headwinds and rejection show up as really powerful emotions. And the key is to not lose sight of who you are, the power that you have, and the strength of your intent. If you intend or have a dream or a vision, you hang on to it. Don't give that power to anyone else. Keep it and work forward with it. Continue to develop. Headwinds sometimes help you change the course and make a difference. And I believe that's your option. You can always make that and make that change, and you can also address it directly with whoever's creating the headwind and let them know that you have something that they need and want. They just haven't learned it yet.
Great. I would love to just end it right there. That was wonderful advice. So this last question, you just get one word. And Kathy, we're going to start with you and work this way. So you're on you get the least amount of time to think about it. But we want to hear why, in one word, your company believes in the Elevate Her challenge.
Example.
Okay, Nate.
Fun.
Success.
Value.
Transformation.
Let's give him a hand.